Hello, this is going to be the second video discussing MLA format. I'm starting this PowerPoint on slide 13 of the PowerPoint you can find online. In relation to works cited citations, which I was talking about at the end of the last video, titles are really important. Shorter titles. If you have a chapter, an article, an essay, or maybe a short story, those titles are always going to be in quotation marks. If you have a larger source, such as a book or a journal, you're always going to use italics. Should never underline any title. It's a very outdated version of MLA format. And you should also never use both quotation marks and italics in the same title. That's probably the number one biggest mistake I see when it comes to titles in MLA format, is using both italics and quotation marks. So again, it's pretty simple but easy to forget. If you have something smaller, a title of an essay or an article is going to be in italics or quotation marks. If you have something larger like a full book, it's italics. And so usually when it comes to the template I showed earlier, I'm looking at slide 11 here. I'm going to be, if I can click on it. The title, this could, if you need a container, this is not 100%, but it's usually, if you need a container, the container is probably going to be in italics, and your title of your source is going to be in a quotation marks. And that's not 100%, but that's usually most of the time. It just depends on what kind of source you're looking at. So I'm on slide 14 now. If you have one or two authors, you would write their names out. So it would be the first author would be last name, comma, first name, and the second author would be first name, last name. But if you have three or more authors, you would list the first author's name and then write et al. After that. And the reason why is you don't have to have a lot of authors. So if you have like 10 or 15 authors, you don't have to continuously write them out. So again, if you have one or two, and it's going to be the author that is written first, and so you should put the authors in order, if you have one or two of them, in order of how they're listed and how they're presented. Don't just do them by alphabetical order. The alphabetical order comes in when you already have complete citation, works cited citations, and you put those citations in order. But when you're citing something, so say you have, more than three authors, three or more authors, and you have somebody, it's John Smith, you would say Smith, comma, John, and that would show that you have three or more authors. Okay, so that's really important to remember. Sometimes you have no author, like I discussed earlier. Usually there's no author if it's written by a larger group or corporation, or maybe a department in the federal government or a state government. So maybe you have the Department of Education, and they are collectively writing something, and there's not only one person. So you might have a lot of people working on this. Therefore, there's not one person, but the company or the department is going to be, who authored it. But that's not what's going to come first, which can be kind of confusing. So some people might think if there's no author, the publisher or the group is going to be first, when that's actually not the case. What comes next is the title. And so just like up here, where I was looking at those word cited template, if there's no author, you go directly down to the next one, which is title of the source. And so that's easy to forget, but really important to remember. So quotations and paraphrases. You should cite any piece of information that is not common knowledge and did not come from you. So common knowledge is something that most people know. So if I said Michael Jackson sang the song Thriller, most people know that he did that. Okay? He sang that song. You don't need to cite from another piece of information that he sang that song. But if you provide information that says Michael Jackson's Thriller sold X amount of copies, then you need to cite that because it's not common knowledge. So if you have any information that's not common knowledge and you get it from somewhere else, you must cite it, even if it's paraphrased. A paraphrase and a summary should also be cited. That's just putting information in your own words. Paraphrase is citing a smaller piece of information, like a sentence or a paragraph, and putting it in your own words. A summary is citing a larger work. So maybe you cite an entire chapter, or you summarize an entire chapter in a sentence or two. that would be a larger summary. But no matter what, if you find that information somewhere else, you should still cite it. If you have a quote that is 4 lines or fewer, you would put that information within the body of the essay. So if I'm coming back here to my example, this line here, this would be, this isn't a quote, but it's a paraphrase. Say it's 1 line, you would just have it kind of be the body of the paragraph. If you have a block quote, if you have 4 lines or more, you need to use a block quote. In a block quote, you would indent the entire block text, the quote, 1/2 inch margins. Do not add quotation marks onto the quote. Do not indent the first line of the quotation. You would be indenting the entire quote. Introductory phrase followed by a colon. And also use a single space instead of double space. This is one change that's the 9th edition. Block quotes used to be double space, and now they are single space. So there's no block quotes in the example I'm giving, but hypothetically say this is on 1 quote. I would maybe have the beginning here, and I would say, you know, CNN, or like John Smith from CNN stated. This is not where this came from. I'm just making an example. I would indent the entire paragraph. I would put it in single spaced, okay, and separate that from that one before. And then I would put, you know, the page number it was found on, if there is one, or something along those lines, okay? And so this would be an example of a block quote. Now, most of you are probably going to use a lot of block quotes. Our essays are relatively on the shorter side, so you're not going to be writing any 10 or 20 page essays this semester. But the more usually block quotes you have, the more it bogs down your writing, and it makes it to where you have less of your own ideas there. So making sure whatever you're writing, your voice and your ideas are still there. But if you do need to use a block quote which has 4 lines or more, you would use that. This is only the beginning of MLA format, okay? It's just going to be those 2 videos. These are the basics. These are the information you need to know. But there might be a citation that has information that's not on one of these 2 slides. If that's the case, you need to go back to this PDF right here, and you're going to have more information on there. Or if you just need to ask, you know, feel free to ask me. Or go to the Jeffco Writing Center. They can help you as well there too. One of those 2 places could be really helpful. So that's going to be MLA format. These are the basics. MLA format is not necessarily exciting or fun to talk about, but it's really important. My goal for this semester is that you learn how to format on your own. And so I don't memorize MLA format, but I do know how to look information up. So this is my first semester using 9th edition, but I know most of 8th edition, and I'm just trying to learn the new pieces of information of 9th edition. Please make sure that if you do use an outside source like a citation generator like EasyBib, that you are double checking that your citations are correct. Because in my experience, most of the time, those citations are incorrect. So just please make sure that you are using your own ideas and what you learn, or to look that up. Because what I care about is that you have the understanding and the knowledge to understand why a citation is the way it is, or what order information goes in. And you're not going to necessarily learn that if you just have a citation generator do that for you every time. And so, in my experience, a lot of people have used MLA format, but don't really understand it. I'm not going to ask you to memorize anything. I'm not going to quiz you on this information, but the big purpose of the Common Pleas book entries are to help you cite, and then I'm going to provide that feedback on those entries. So if you do make a mistake, ideally you can learn from that feedback, apply it to the next entries, and then by the time we're into writing the 2nd or 3rd paper, you have a much stronger idea of how to cite on your own. So this is only the beginning of the introductory information. I don't expect anybody to be experts in MLA format just by watching these 2 videos, but you do need the information presented in these 2 videos to proceed further. So if you have any questions about MLA format, please let me know. Otherwise, have a great day.